There's a bit of a story behind this one, but to cut to the chase, I found a game on Japanese TTRPG Twitter, one that caught my eye because of this image. I was mystified, horrified, but interested. After a bit of digging, I found it, Kizknights or Kizknighto under my first impression, a fully Japanese web TTRPG uploaded on a website. Obviously, I don't read Japanese, but I do know how deep L and Yandex work, so I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. Taking the better part of a month and a half of on and off work, I managed to DUWANG translate a majority of the game. In short, the game has you take the role of a twin soul, a bond between a ghost and a human, tasked with trying to keep the world safe from chain messengers who seek to bind the dead to do their own bidding, or malicious ghosts using a human as a vessel. This is a very Japanese game, and a very beginner-friendly one at that, to the point where entire chunks of the website is actually more dedicated to helping players get a feel for running a game or just setting one up. But this is a two-player RPG with a single GM to keep things going. One will play a ghost character while the other player will be playing the living. Each of these souls have a class associated with them, granting them access to a helping of binding techniques, originally translated as knotting techniques, as well as a default itokuri technique. You'll only begin with 3 of these, but a majority of them fall into some very basic categories of what they'll actually be doing, as the main game actually takes place on the soul point table. The soul point table is divided into 14 spaces, with both extremes being this shore and other shore, or reality and the underworld. You don't have health or anything like that. Instead, the goal is to power slam the enemy off the board using the power of spectral friendship. Ghosts are being slowly banished back to the underworld, while humans are being drawn back to the real world. This distance is a major factor in determining the success or failure of your techniques. If our dead character wants to use visceral presentation, they'll need to roll 2d6 and score the result between themselves and their partner. Better techniques tend to have a lower distance, forcing these checks to not only be harder, but actually more dangerous. As if you fail a check, one of the PCs does have the option of adjusting themselves closer to oblivion to make that check succeed. There are also resident binding techniques. If the 2 PCs are next to each other, they're allowed to unleash their final ultimate super technique and really fuck over the chain messenger's day, such as moving them up to 7 squares, killing all the mob enemies, or disabling their abilities. But let's say disaster strikes and one PC is knocked off the board. They are disconnected. The bond is severed and they lose. However, the game does have a savior mechanic with soul bonding, forcefully retying the bond thread together and allowing them to continue to fight with a bullshit last second super move, but effectively removing one of the 2 PCs from future play should they be pushed out again. The bosses and the mobs themselves instead have just a series of shackles, which are the GM's rolls a d6 to determine their action every turn, not requiring them to actually succeed or check anything. But these have a major drawback of, well, they have their moves predetermined, can get them locked. There is also an exploration and investigation phase to the game with special techniques and abilities allowing the PC to explore and reveal parts of the story. Unfortunately, I don't understand what the fuck they were talking about, as it's technically taking place on the soul point table, forcing the PC to move closer and farther away from one another to determine truths and clues about the situation. This may make sense in the scenarios, but I never translated those. Maybe I should do that. Overall, the game is light and kind of a gimmick, but that gimmick is unique enough to premise to justify talking about it, and I doubt anyone else was really going to translate the damn thing, so I did. I may take on further DUWANG translations, if only to introduce games to a greater sphere, as I'm fascinated by these. I want to learn more about them. If you want to learn more, the links are in the description. My name is Notepad, and this was Kizknights, the Human Spirit Resonance RPG. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Goodbye.
That explain our guy love, that's all it is. Just guy love, he's mine, I'm his. There's nothing